Ramaswamy joins us now. Good morning, Vivek.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning. We've known you for years. You wrote your book. You've been, you've come on our show a lot. Then we see you up on the debate stage. You decide to run for president, and you just come out so energetic, and the polls are showing that you are loved. You really just came back from behind. Tell us, what is your reaction to all of this?
So I do think we're skating on thin ice as a country right now, Ainsley, and my top goal as U.S. president is to reunite this country. I still believe that's possible. I don't think we're working with a lot of time here. If my two sons, who are toddlers now, if they graduate from 12th grade before we fix this, I genuinely worry we will not have a country left. That is what gives me my sense of urgency, and that is why I have been so clear, despite being a competitor to Donald Trump in this primary. I have been crystal clear that, yes, I will pardon him of any federal crime of which I'm able to. And the reason why is that is a precondition for moving our nation forward. We cannot turn into a banana republic where the party in power uses police force to indict and arrest its political opponents in the middle of an election. That is not how we do it in the United States of America. And if there's one principle we should all be able to unite around, whether or not you disagree with the president, it is we the people who select the president, not the federal administrative police state. And that's why I've been so clear on this issue.
And Vivek, you mentioned you're a competitor. You and Donald Trump are both competing to be president of the United States, but you guys have a lot of the same policies. And it's like, well, why would I vote for Vivek when I can get the real McCoy if I like Donald Trump's policies?
The reality is, being the president is not just about policy. You're right. Donald Trump and I are both America First candidates. There are some small differences. I would go further with some elements of the America First agenda. Use the military on the southern border, not just build the wall. Shut down the Department of Education, not just put Betsy DeVos, a good person, on top and tell her to reform it. So in many ways, I think I am going further, but that's not the real difference. I'm from a different generation. I'm 38 years old. We are reaching young Americans as somebody who has lived the American dream as a first-generation American. I want to build a multi-ethnic working-class coalition that delivers not just a 50.1 electoral margin, but a landslide, a moral mandate. And I genuinely believe that, as I said before, we're skating on such thin ice that this has to be a landslide election. Like Reagan delivered in 1980, I think I am the single candidate on this Republican primary that can actually deliver that landslide in 2024, and that is a critical step to reunite this country. We're reaching people young and old, black and white, man and woman. It doesn't matter. The places I've gone, from the south side of Chicago to Kensington and Philadelphia, these are places where traditional Republicans don't dare go. Many Democrats don't even dare go. But to me, the America First movement means we put all Americans first. And I think that landslide is something that I'm uniquely equipped to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, the president tried to put federal troops into those hellacious city streets, and these mayors push back, so that's what you'll be up against. You're also going to be up against Ambassador Nikki Haley, and you guys could not be more disagreeable when it comes to our role in the hot spots in the world and the places that matter most. Here's what she told us last hour about how wrong she still thinks you are.
When you talk about Ukraine, I understand that Americans are divided on what we should be doing with Ukraine, but Vivek was completely wrong to say that we have to choose between the border or protecting our national security. We do it all. We do it all to make sure we keep Americans safe.
So she went on there, Taiwan, stop Russia there is a message to China because they're inextricably linked.
So, look, I respect Ambassador Haley and her experiences, but I respectfully disagree with her. And I think the existing foreign policy establishment has gotten it wrong for so long, they're getting it wrong here, too. We are driving Russia further into China's hands.
But they invaded Ukraine, Vivek. They invaded Ukraine. Just give them the 20% of the country?
Well, here's what I would say. Just like Nixon did not trust Mao, we still had to pull Mao Zedong out of the hands of the USSR. I don't trust Putin any more than Putin trusts us.
But you want to take his word that he'll divorce himself from China?
No, I will not take his word. I will make him actually abide by an agreement with the United States with hard conditions attached to it. If they resume joint military exercises with China, there will be consequences in my deal with them. We will immediately then look at other actions that actually put Russia in a tougher spot than they are even now. Maximum pressure campaign. But what I've said is we can actually go the other direction. Reopen economic relations with Russia. Freeze the current lines of control. Make a commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine to NATO.
So let Russia take 20% of the country. They took it. They just took it.
The reality,
and you said
the reality
let him
is,
have it?
what do we get in return?
But listen.
The reality is what we get in return. I'm keeping my eye on the prize, Brian. Here's the eye on the prize. The Russia-China alliance is the greatest threat the United States faces. There is not a single candidate in either party who has offered a coherent plan of how to disband that alliance. I have. And I want to use the Ukraine war as a chance to bring that alliance apart. That will be the single greatest advance
We're watching
in US
the Russian army deconstructed before our eyes. We're watching the Russian army deconstructed before our eyes without any American blood. They are the aggressors, and our foreign policy did win us the Cold War, which I assume you know.
Yes, in the modern Cold War, Brian, that the old establishment needs to wake up and see is that the USSR doesn't exist anymore, but communist China does. And unlike the USSR, we now depend on communist China for our modern way of life. If that had been a Russian spy balloon flying over half the United States, we would have shot it down in an instant and ratcheted up sanctions. But because it was a Chinese spy balloon, we're scared, so we didn't do it.
Right.
And the reality is China is bolder because they know Russia is in their camp. Russia does have the largest nuclear stockpile.
You will never separate them.
Why do you want to embolden China even more and allow them to take
disagree
Taiwan?
respectfully.
You give
what
them
about
a win?
Taiwan? You said that you were fine basically with China taking Taiwan?
That's actually not what I said.
Okay, what did you
to
say?
The contrary, I'm glad
Clarify
we're
it.
having this discussion. What I said is there isn't a single candidate in the Republican Party who's had the courage to say what I've said, which is we will defend Taiwan. Right now, the U.S. policy of strategic ambiguity doesn't allow establishment politicians to say that. The U.S. policy in both parties is a one China policy. I say move beyond that to strategic clarity. I said we will defend Taiwan, at least until we have semiconductor independence in this country,
and
at which point we will reevaluate.
And then we let them take it.
At which point we'll reevaluate.
All right.
Brian, I will remind you that the U.S. policy right now is a one China policy. Donald Trump was derided for picking up a phone call from the Taiwanese president. That's how pathetic our current policy is. I think we should be clear that we will defend Taiwan.
Believe it or not,
but
this
also
president,
make it clear to Xi Jinping.
Believe it or not, this president keeps saying we are. He's different from his State Department.
Vivek, thank you very much for joining us today. We know you've had a really big week. You did a really good job. Do you have enough energy to do like 40 burpees for us right now on TV?
Oh, my gosh.
We might go for 45 today, but what I'll say is I love the conversation with you guys.
All right.
Great quality conversation. Leaves me energized. We'll do more.